Hello and welcome to Fight News Now. I'm John Pollock. Coming up over the next hour, we're going to be chatting all about today's news and the announcement that Ronda Rousey will be returning at UFC 207 to challenge Amanda Nunes for the Women's Bantamweight Championship. We'll discuss that with John Ramdine and Robin Black, plus a look at Glory's upcoming event in Denver and much more on today's edition of Fight News Now. I'm here with John Ramdine and Robin Black. We are going to start off with the announcement that Dana White made on FS1 on Wednesday that Ronda Rousey will be returning. It was the fight that had certainly been rumored for some time, challenging Amanda Nunes for the Bantamweight Championship. And certainly it confirms a really big main event to close off the year for the company.
Yeah, I'm actually stunned that we're seeing the return of Ronda Rousey because it's been so long. Now, I didn't expect her to jump right back into the game, so to speak, after that first setback of her mixed martial arts career. But I would have thought, after a few months that she would be itching to get back in there. Now, is she looking at things objectively? Did she realize, I had a whole bunch of holes in my game and I couldn't come back to mixed martial arts so soon? If she's been working diligently to close the gap in any of her weak areas, expect a different Ronda Rousey. But the criticism is the team that she works with and the current coach. Is Edmund Taverdian going to give her the skills necessary?
This is Robin Black, David Mullins territory.
Yeah, well,
What's going on in that head?
We'll be talking about that on Mentality of Combat Sports on our YouTube channel for sure today. It'll be up probably within 12 hours. But I like this fight for Ronda. Of the three top women, the three former champions, Holly Holm, Miesha Tate, and Amanda Nunes, I think based on what we know of Ronda's skill set, as it is so far, you would hope that she's also grown and improved and evolved. I think Nunes is the opponent that is the most like what she has done in the past. Right. Somebody with good jiu-jitsu and good striking. She's dealt with an Olympic silver medalist in wrestling and handled her strength and her grappling really well. She's dealt with good, complex mixed martial artists like Miesha Tate in the past because her hardest test was Holly Holm. Holly Holm, Dominic Cruz, or Wonder Boy, anybody who has that ability to make you miss, stay outside, make you chase, not let you get a hold of her. And my guy Mike Brown down at ATT is going to be developing that very principle for Amanda Nunes. So it's still going to be an incredibly hard fight.
Do you guys find this fight more interesting because there are so many questions with Ronda Rousey? I mean, a year and a half ago, we could look at a main event with her and Betch Correia, and despite no one favored Betch Correia in that fight, and yet still 900,000 homes bought that. This time around, Ronda's coming off a loss. I think there's people that actually can viably believe that Amanda Nunes can win this fight. Is this more interesting because of the long layoff and the fact that she is coming off a loss for the first time in her career?
To me, yes, that's exactly it. And Robin mentioned Mike Thomas Brown. The folks down at American Top Team, they are going to try to have a plan to ensure Amanda Nunes that she gets the victory, but the fact is they're going to also do it based on what she's very, very good at. And one of the things that she is very good at is delivering firepower. And when Ronda Rousey tries to get close, because we know what Ronda Rousey does, she gets in close, she manages to get the fight to the ground, and then tries to lock up an armbar. But you look at some of her...
Can she absorb those strikes?
That's what it is. Can she absorb the punishment? And Holly Holm didn't necessarily play that game. She played the distance game, whereas Amanda Nunes hits hard. So it's Ronda Rousey. Will she be able to respond when she's hit, as hard as Amanda Nunes can hit? Because you look at her number of opponents that she's had in the UFC, nobody has had the real firepower that Amanda Nunes possesses.
So look at what we look at when we look at the tape of Ronda Rousey. It doesn't take any level of analysis. Never mind people like Mike Brown and the people at ATT. Armchair analysts can look at this and tell you the way to beat that Ronda Rousey on tape. Ronda Rousey's job is to not be that Ronda Rousey, and she's had a year to do it. So if Amanda Nunes goes in with the perfect game plan to beat that assembly of skills and attributes that was Ronda Rousey, but Ronda fights different, has different skills, approaches it different, has a different mindset and a different mentality, that's how she can surprise her. Because if she's the same Ronda, can she win? Of course. We've seen her close the distance, get the underhooks, get the grip, get the throw, get the armbar. She's done it to people. They all knew what it was. Every one of them knew what was coming, and they couldn't stop it. Is that possible still? Yes. But in a year and all that time of study and seeing the blueprint of how to beat her and great coaches, Ronda has to have evolved.
I thought we had finally made some strides away from this topic, but Dana White just brings it right back into the forefront, stating that if Ronda Rousey wins this fight and wins the title, the fight with Chris Cyborg will definitely happen, which I think makes it a high probability it will never happen if he's saying definitely. But now that is going to be the focus now. That is going to be asked a million times. Let's just forget about everything that has happened over the last 3 years. Now it's definitely going to happen if Ronda wins this fight.
Yeah, you just go with it. You go with the clickbaits. And it's just like George St. Pierre and Anderson Silva. How long did the mixed martial arts world have that discussion? Oh yeah, George is going to fight Anderson for sure. They're still teasing that right now. George St. Pierre's retired from mixed martial arts, and Anderson Silva hasn't won a fight since Stephan Bonner, but people are still talking about that super fight. It's the way to keep the fans engaged, and this matchup with Ronda Rousey and Chris Cyborg will keep the fans engaged as well, because yes, they're definitely going to be interested if the UFC could ever put this fight together, but it just doesn't look like
I just don't know how have the logistics changed in all of this.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Did somebody say Anderson Silva versus George St. Pierre? Maybe they could do that at UFC 206. What do you think?
Yeah. Not happening.
That's an interesting question, because this UFC 206 card is, I mean, it's getting down to crunch time. I mean, if they have an ace up their sleeve, it's about time to play it for that. I mean, tickets are going on sale for this event. You want to have your card out there and beyond the title fight, and they've announced some additional fights. I think people are very much they're anticipating that, because it's been dangled out there so much that not delivering it, I think there is going to be a letdown from a lot of fans.
Sure, there's a letdown if George isn't on this card, and it's Anthony Rumble Johnson and Daniel Cormier, which is your main event. But if you have some sort of supporting cast that can get the fans excited, we were talking about potential matchups. BJ Penn being on this card. Again, I don't know if it's the Ricardo Lamas fight, but you put BJ Penn on there. You have Max Holloway taking on Anthony Pettis. Stuff like that, I think you'll satisfy the fans if George isn't involved in this fight card, and I don't know how likely it is. But
how
our
about
team,
Nick Diaz? Are you a fan of
yeah,
that
Nick
guy?
Diaz. Put Nick Diaz on the card as well. I mean, there are options for the UFC. Clear when it comes to UFC 207, you don't need to give the fans anything else, because the world will be tuning into UFC 207 for one reason, and that's to watch Ronda Rousey. So you're going to get your pay-per-view buys. Are you going to get ridiculous pay-per-view buys with Anthony Rumble Johnson and Daniel Cormier?
No.
Certainly not. So put Nick Diaz on the card, put Anthony Pettis on the card, you might be able to increase pay-per-view buys.
I'm pretty excited about DC.
I love it. Of
AJ.
course, yes, as a fight fan, right. But you're trying to appeal to the masses. You're trying to get as many eyeballs tuning into your pay-per-view as humanly possible. That's not the fight.
You wonder, too, when you're thinking about how deals get made, and you understand that leverage and how you making deals that are good for everybody happen. When you're killing it with 205 and you're killing it with 207, maybe they're not as motivated to pay George the big money. So fingers crossed.
Well, I mean, and this ties all together. It's George St. Pierre, you pay him this high guarantee that he feels he's worth and making up for sponsors. If you're Ronda Rousey and you're looking at just a handful of fights, well, my pay-per-view is going to do more than George's. I want not only his guarantee, I want 25% above that. And Connor looks at this and says, hey, wait a minute, they're getting X and Y. Well, I want Z, which is more than all of these three. So, I mean, you're not just raising one guy's guarantee, you're looking at a number of people. John Jones wants to come back. Okay, I want a massive guarantee, and you're raising the ceiling of everybody.
Sure, but you mentioned John Jones, Conor McGregor, Ronda Rousey, George St. Pierre. Those are athletes in a different class than the majority of the fighters on the UFC roster.
Sure, but those are the ones with the leverage.
And they do have the leverage, so the UFC can say, look, these are the ones, these athletes put people in the seats. These athletes sell pay-per-views. Sorry, as much as I love Groovy Lando, he does not command a lot of money because he just doesn't sell right now. Now, maybe in the future he becomes the champion and people will know his name, but right now, Lando is just like the rest of the UFC's roster. There's not a whole lot of stars. So if the UFC is going to pay, they're going to pay for the fighters that really have the money come back. Financially, they're worth it.
Last thought on Ronda, when we're talking about her coming back, we hope that she's trained and evolved and gone further in this time off. But I also hope, you hope so, but you also hope she's readied herself to get back into the spotlight, deal with all the negativity, deal with that microscope, because that's a lot of pressure.
Welcome back. We will be back on later this week with a new edition of Fight News Now. You can tune in each and every weeknight at 6 p.m. Eastern Time with the three of us rambling.